A deadly virus spreads rapidly across the world, transmitted through both physical contact and the air, infecting people at an alarming rate. In an effort to survive, Paul and Sarah escape the city with their son Travis and Sarah's father, Bud, and relocate to a secluded house hidden deep in the woods. Despite their precautions, Bud eventually starts showing clear symptoms of the virus. He vomits blood and painful sores appear across his body. Realizing the infection will soon spread, Paul makes the devastating decision to kill Bud and burn his body. Later that night, their dog Stanley begins barking frantically near the front door, signaling that someone is outside. The family immediately gears up and puts on their protective masks and gloves. When the intruder breaks into the house, Paul orders him to lie on the ground and drop his weapon. He asks whether the man is infected, and the stranger denies it. Paul then questions whether anyone else is with him, but the man insists he is alone. Refusing to take chances, Paul knocks him unconscious and orders Sarah and Travis to guard him while he searches the surrounding area. Still suspicious that the man could be carrying the virus without showing symptoms, Paul ties him to a tree far from the house and tapes his mouth shut so he cannot call out. Once the situation is under control, they repair the damaged door and seal any openings to protect themselves from future intruders. The following morning, Paul goes to inspect the man tied to the tree. After carefully examining him, Paul sees no signs of illness. He then questions the man, making it clear that lying will cost him his life, while honesty will earn him water. Once the tape is removed, the man introduces himself as Will. He explains he believed the house was abandoned because he saw no signs of anyone living there. Will then reveals he has a wife and a young child waiting for him. After the outbreak, they fled crowded areas and traveled deep into the forest, about 80 kilometers away. Eventually, they ran out of water, forcing Will to search for help. He swears he would never have entered the house if he had known people were living there. Convinced by Will's calm behavior and believable story, Paul gives him water, knowing he must be severely dehydrated after being restrained all day. Before making a final decision, Paul shares everything with Sarah, including details about Will's family. Sarah suggests bringing them into their home because she believes having more people would strengthen their ability to defend the house and share the work of gathering supplies. After agreeing, Paul travels with Will to bring his family. A few hours later, they return safely with Will's wife Kim and their young son Andrew. Will also brings along his 2 goats and 6 live chickens, providing a vital food source for everyone. Once the newcomers settle in, Paul gathers everyone in the dining room to lay out strict rules designed to protect their health and safety. He explains that only one door will be used for entering and leaving the house, and it will be locked at night. During the day, they divide into 2 groups to collect food, fetch clean water, and gather firewood. All weapons are stored in a locked chest that only Paul can open, and anyone needing one must ask his permission first. To conserve supplies, they will eat only 2 shared meals per day. Everyone must use their own utensils, with no sharing allowed to prevent contamination. After bathing, water buckets must be emptied immediately so no standing water remains. As time passes, life in the forest becomes more structured and routine. Everyone contributes by completing their assigned tasks. Some fetch clean water in the mornings, while others search for food or collect firewood for warmth and cooking. During moments of rest, they talk, laugh, and play games, slowly rebuilding a sense of normal life. One day, while gathering firewood, Stanley suddenly starts barking toward the woods. Paul tries to calm him, but the leash snaps, and Stanley runs off. Travis chases after the dog, but after running for some time, the barking stops. Paul and Will catch up to Travis, and Paul angrily scolds him and sends him back home while they continue searching. But despite their efforts, they find no trace of Stanley. Paul apologizes to his son, promising they will continue searching for their dog the next morning.
That night, after everyone went to sleep, Travis woke up to a noise. He followed the sound and discovered it was coming from Andrew, who was somehow sleeping on the living room floor. Travis carefully woke him and guided him back to his room. As Travis headed back, he checked the front door and froze when he saw it wide open. He immediately woke the others, and everyone rushed to arm themselves, putting on masks and gloves before investigating. When they reached the entrance, they were horrified to find Stanley lying outside, gravely injured and barely clinging to life. Concerned that the dog could be infected, they made the brutal decision to burn his body to eliminate any risk of contagion. Afterward, the group gathered around the dining table to piece together what had happened. Paul calmly questioned Travis about the door, asking whether he had opened it himself. Travis insisted the door was already open when he noticed it, and mentioned finding Andrew asleep in the living room, and suggested that Andrew might have opened the door while sleepwalking. Kim immediately rejected that idea, but when Andrew was questioned, he claimed he couldn't remember anything. Realizing the danger of the situation, Paul decided it was safest to separate the two families temporarily. For the next day or two, they would remain isolated in different rooms with no contact to reduce the possibility of infection spreading. Alone in his room, Travis feared that he might already be sick, remembering that he had touched Andrew earlier without gloves while helping him back to bed. Paul tried to calm his son, reassuring him and advising him to take a shower to clean himself. Later that night, Travis quietly slipped out of his room and climbed into the attic. From there, he overheard Will and Kim arguing intensely. Though he couldn't make out every word, Travis clearly heard them discussing plans to leave the house. Convinced something was seriously wrong, Travis hurried back to wake his parents and tell them what he had heard. Paul and Sarah quickly armed themselves and prepared for the worst. They ordered Travis to stay in his room while they confronted Will. When Paul knocked on Will's door, Will refused to open it, claiming Andrew had simply had a nightmare. Paul explained that he only wanted to check on them, but Will continued to refuse, escalating the tension. When Will finally opened the door, he instantly aimed a gun at Paul and ordered him inside. Will demanded that Paul remove his mask and gloves and insisted he just wanted to leave with his family. He asked only for food and water and warned Paul not to make any sudden moves. He then ordered Kim to take Andrew and leave the house while he pointed his gun on Paul, forcing him to gather supplies. As they moved downstairs, Sarah suddenly appeared with her own weapon drawn. She ordered Will to lower his gun to prevent the situation from spiraling further. Will suggested that both sides lower their weapons together on the count of 3. Sarah agreed, but the moment Will relaxed, Paul lunged forward and snatched the gun from his hand. Will shouted for Kim to take Andrew and run, but before she could move, Sarah blocked her path. Upon inspecting them, Sarah realized both Kim and Andrew were visibly infected. Will himself was also clearly showing symptoms. Determined to end the threat, Paul overpowered Will and dragged him outside, but Will suddenly fought back and nearly killed Paul. At the last possible moment, Sarah shot Will, saving Paul's life. As Will lay dead, Kim grabbed Andrew and fled toward the forest, but Paul fired at Andrew before he could get far. Showing no mercy, Paul fired again and killed Kim as well. Not long after, Paul and Sarah came to the devastating realization that Travis had been infected as well, most likely from his earlier contact with Andrew. Confined to his bed and growing weaker, Travis was comforted by his parents, who abandoned all safety precautions to stay close to him. In the final moments, Paul and Sarah sit silently at the dining table, both now infected themselves, staring blankly at one another as they accept the fate that awaits them.